welcome back to another video. And of course, the Rock's flashback has been goated. Everything about Rox has been goated. For such an insane character reveal, for such a character to be hyped up, for such an execution of the story of Oda to be at the highest level of peak, perfection. I'm not lying to you. No one could do it better than Oda right now. He is cooking on One Piece 100%. Unfortunately, Rox is meeting his end to the story. Of course, we cannot change anything. Oda is one of the very few mangaka to actually stay true to what he actually says. If this was DBZ, RIP Akira, maybe we get a retcon. Naruto, maybe a retcon. Or a reanimation jutsu somewhere. Bleach, no one dies in Bleach because they're already dead. That's a fact. But Rox, I ain't gonna lie to you, he had to go. Of course, this all comes from like the beginning of his story. Rox himself goes to the flower room, kills an admiral that was protecting the flower room. Goes to this flower room to challenge Imu and says, I'll be back, knowing he really can't do anything at the site of right now just because the world government is going to be on his back soon. And Harold is unfortunately is creating a distraction for Garp to really just get up out of there. Harold escapes and Rox escapes, inevitably untouched by themselves because of distractions they cause for those two. Then at the same time, he's caused mass casualty events on the sea, taking over islands that is not talked that is only referenced in one page in the 6 to 8 chapters we get of this Rox flashback. And in all, also his crew was too strong to exist. Imagine a crew, especially today. I don't think Rox would have even survived to Luffy's day, because Rox would have been a much older man, and then Rox would have been forced into retirement, unfortunately, just because of his age. Now, of course, Blackbeard or Whitebeard may have taken over that crew after Rox's eventual death, but because of his old age, but maybe not. Maybe they still split up and have their own crew much later on, just much later into like the Rox's death, unfortunately after God Valley. But his crew, too strong. Captain John, Shiki, Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, who were all loyal to him. Of course, the rest are fodder. Who are all loyal to him, help out in the God Valley incident. These are all 4 Yonko compatriots who was climbing up in the ranks. Imagine if Rox inevitably survived the God Valley incident in any sense with his crew. That means his crew would still grow in strength, and there would have been nothing stopping them, even if Imu were to pop her head out against them. Because Kaido would have gone in power. Of course, the Navy was already fearful of a Whitebeard and Kaido team up. That wouldn't have been stopped, of course, with Kaido's durability, Whitebeard's strength, and whatever Big Mom, and then Big Mom would have never gotten out of her prime shape, in all, just because they would have all still been in the same crew and all still would have been like a family. In turns, this is what creates the characters we fall in love with. Whitebeard's family, all in all, just because Whitebeard, his family dissolved unfortunately after the God Valley incident. Kaido's depression, unfortunately, had to probably started after the God Valley incident, losing his captain in such a way where they had to attack him in death. And then Big Mom started eating people, of course, growing in strength and wanting to gain every single double fruit for herself and never letting her family get hurt. These set these characters on such a path that we fell in love with them. Not Big Mom, but we fell in love with these characters. And then not Kaido either. And then like whatever Shiki was doing. And Captain John ends up dead anyway. I don't know if he dies at the God Valley incident, but Shiki starts doing his own thing. Shiki character, I don't think really stops after this. I think he kind of just stays the same, since he's not such a main player after in the Luffy story. He's not one of the 4 Yonko at all in Luffy's story. But we see the love. We see his crew. We see that his turbulent times, he was sinking ships, he was taking over territory. We know that he was doing bad, and we all want him to live. We all want him to survive the incident because we want to see him reunited with his family. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen, and Blackbeard turns out to be such a bad and dishonorable pirate. Of course, that is what a pirate is, so you can't really hate him for being a true pirate. Don't understand that criticism, but I don't hate Blackbeard for being like a true pirate, for wanting to take over anything. Of course, it hurts more now since we know what Whitebeard Garp ended up doing for him and his family, but Blackbeard may not see it that way and may have not been told all of what happened on that God Valley island. So Rocks had to go. Imagine a storyline where Blackbeard grows up around the Rocks Pirates and he eventually takes over that captain position and they all respect him. No. Not gonna happen. Of course, Rocks would be disappointed in Blackbeard in this main story, but Blackbeard would have been a totally different character and not giving Luffy a natural enemy or a natural antagonist to oppose. Where I think Blackbeard and Luffy will of course end up teaming up against Emu, but they will have a final battle against each other eventually, just because Luffy gonna want to see that rock real quick. But that's just me. That's why Rocks had to go. His crew, his turbulent times, and eventually he would have taken down Emu in any set with his crew, because that's probably what he wanted his crew for. That's why he wanted Herald Strength 4, to eventually take down Emu, because he wanted to be back with the full strength of his crew. Of course, now he knows that wasn't enough, and is going to end up losing his life in the course of the God Valley incident. Sad man, but he had to go. He had to go. Anyway, like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.